prophets in Islam include messengers, bringers of a divine revelation via an angel, and prophets, lawbringers that Muslims believe were sent by God to every people, bringing God's message in a language they can understand. Belief in prophets is one of the 6 articles of the Islamic faith, and specifically mentioned in the Quran. In Islamic belief, the first prophet was the first human being, Adam. Many Jewish and Christian prophets and revelations they delivered are mentioned in the Quran as prophets and revelations, but usually with different names. Is called Taurat. The Psalms given to David is the Zabur. The Gospel given to Jesus is Injil. Unique to Islam is Muhammad, who Muslims believe is the seal of the prophets, and the text revealed to him, which Muslims believe is unique among divine revelations as the only one protected by God from distortion or corruption, destined to remain in its true form until the last day. In Muslim belief, every prophet preached the same main Islamic beliefs: the oneness of God, worshipping of that one God, avoidance of idolatry and sin, and the belief in the day of resurrection or the day of judgment and life after death. Each came to preach Islam at different times in history, and some told of the coming of the final prophet and messenger of God, who would be named Ahmed, commonly known as Muhammad. Each prophet directed a message to a different group of people, and thus would preach Islam in accordance with the times. Etymology. In Arabic and Hebrew, the term Nabi means prophet. Forms of this noun occur 75 times in the Quran. The term Nubuwwah occurs 5 times in the Quran. The terms Rasul and Mursal denote messenger or apostle, and occur more than 300 times. The term for a prophetic message, Risala, appears in the Quran in 10 instances. The Syriac form of Rasul Allah, Shleadi Allah, occurs frequently in the apocryphal Acts of St. Thomas. The corresponding verb for Shleah, Allah, occurs in connection with the prophets in the Hebrew Bible. The words prophet and messenger appear several times in the Old Testament and the New Testament. The following table shows these words in different languages. In the Hebrew Bible, the word prophet occurs more commonly, and the word messenger refers to angels, but the last book of the Old Testament, the Book of Malachi, speaks of a messenger that Christian commentators interpret as a reference to the future prophet John the Baptist. In the New Testament, however, the word messenger becomes more frequent, sometimes in association with the concept of a prophet. Messenger may refer to Jesus, to his apostles, and to John the Baptist. Characteristics. In Muslim belief, every prophet preached Islam. The beliefs of charity, prayer, pilgrimage, worship of God, and fasting are believed to have been taught by every prophet who has ever lived. The Quran itself calls Islam the religion of Abraham, and refers to Jacob and the 12 tribes of Israel as being Muslim. The Quran says, "The same religion has he established for you as that which he enjoined on Noah, the which we have sent by inspiration to thee, and that which we enjoined on Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Namely, that ye should remain steadfast in religion, and make no divisions therein." Quran, Surah 42, Ayah 13 states the Quran speaks of the prophets as being the greatest human beings of all time. A prophet, in the Muslim sense of the term, is a person whom God specially chose to teach the faith of Islam. Before man was created, God had specifically selected those men whom he would use as prophets. This does not, however, mean that every prophet began to prophesy from his birth. Some were called to prophesy late in life, in Muhammad's case at the age of 40. Others, such as John the Baptist, were called to prophesy while still at a young age, and Jesus prophesied while still in his cradle. The Quran verse 4-69 lists various virtuous groups of human beings, among whom prophets occupy the highest rank. Verse 4-69 reads, "All who obey Allah and the Messenger in the company of those on whom is the grace of Allah, of the prophets, the sincere, the witnesses, and the righteous." What a beautiful fellowship! Quran, Surah 4, Ayah 69. Biblical stories reproduced in the Quran etc. differ somewhat from those of the Bible in that the Quran always demonstrates that it is God's practice to make faith triumph finally over the forces of evil and adversity. Assuredly God will defend those who believe. Thus the Islamic Isa did not die on the cross like the Christian Jesus, but deceived his enemies and ascended to heaven. According to Orthodox Sunni doctrine, prophets are unlike other human beings in that they are protected from major and minor wrongdoing. However, they also share no divine attributes, and possess no knowledge or power other than that granted to them by God. Numbers Muslims believe that many prophets existed, including many not mentioned in the Quran. The Quran itself refers to at least 4 other prophets but does not name him. One less than sound hadith states there have been 124,000 prophets, while another scholarly source states that their exact numbers are not known with any kind of certainty. Female prophets Most mainstream Sunni scholars agree that prophets were males only. Still, some like Ibn Hazm, Khachibai, Ibn Hijr, and al-Ash'ari thought that the verses that mention angels speaking to Mary are proofs of her prophethood. Also, Ibn Hijr interrupts the hadith. Many among men attained perfection, but among women none attained the perfection except Mary, the daughter of Imran and Asiyah, the wife of Pharaoh. He said perfection is prophethood. In turn, his claim that Mary and Asiyah were prophets, scriptures and other gifts. Holy books. The revealed books are the records which Muslims believe were dictated by God to various Islamic prophets throughout the history of mankind. All these books promulgated the code and laws of Islam. The belief in all the revealed books is an article of faith in Islam, and Muslims must believe in all the scriptures to be a Muslim. Muslims believe the Quran, the final holy scripture, was sent because all the previous holy books had been either corrupted or lost. Nonetheless, Islam speaks of respecting all the previous scriptures, even in their current forms. The Quran mentions some Islamic scriptures by name, which came before the Quran. Torah. According to the Quran, the Torah was revealed to Moses, but Muslims believe that the current Pentateuch, although it retains the main message, has suffered corruption over the years. Moses and his brother Harun used the Torah to preach the message to the children of Israel. The Quran implies that the Torah is the longest used scripture, with the Jewish people still using the Torah today, and that all the Hebrew prophets would warn the people of any corruptions that were in the scripture. Jesus, in Muslim belief, was the last prophet to be taught the Mosaic law in its true form. Zabur. The Quran mentions the Psalms as being the holy scripture revealed to David. Scholars have often understood the Psalms to have been holy songs of praise. The current Psalms are still praised by many Muslim scholars, but Muslims generally assume that some of the current Psalms were written later and are not divinely revealed. Book of Enlightenment. The Quran mentions a Book of Enlightenment, which has alternatively been translated as Scripture of Enlightenment or the Illuminating Book. It mentions that some prophets, in the past, came with clear signs from God as well as this particular scripture. Books of Divine Wisdom. The Quran mentions certain books of divine wisdom, translated by some scholars as books of dark prophecies, which are reference to particular books vouchsafed to some prophets, wherein there was wisdom for man. Some scholars have suggested that these may be one and the same as the Psalms, as their root Arabic word, Zubur, comes from the same source as the Arabic Zabur for the Psalms. Injil. The Injil was the holy book revealed to Jesus, according to the Quran. Although many lay Muslims believe the Injil refers to the entire New Testament, scholars have clearly pointed out that it refers not to the New Testament but to an original gospel, which was sent by God, and was given to Jesus. Therefore, according to Muslim belief, the gospel was the message that Jesus, being divinely inspired, preached to the children of Israel. The current canonical gospels, in the belief of Muslim scholars, are not divinely revealed but rather are documents of the life of Jesus. as written by various contemporaries, disciples and companions. These Gospels contain portions of Jesus' teachings but do not represent the original Gospel, which was a single book written not by a human but was sent by God. Scrolls of Abraham. The Scrolls of Abraham are believed to have been one of the earliest bodies of Scripture, which were vouchsafed to Abraham, and later used by Ishmael and Isaac. Although usually referred to as scrolls, many translators have translated the Arabic Suhuf as books. The Scrolls of Abraham are now considered lost rather than corrupted, although some scholars have identified them with the Testament of Abraham, an apocalyptic piece of literature available in Arabic at the time of Muhammad. Scrolls of Moses. These scrolls, containing the revelations of Moses, which were perhaps written down later by Moses, Aaron and Joshua, are understood by Muslims to refer not to the Torah but to revelations aside from the Torah. Some scholars have stated that they could possibly refer to the Book of the Wars of the Lord, a lost text spoken of in the Hebrew Bible. Holy gifts. The Quran mentions various divinely bestowed gifts given to various prophets. These may be interpreted as books or forms of celestial knowledge. Although all prophets are believed by Muslims to have been immensely gifted, special mention of wisdom, or knowledge for a particular prophet is understood to mean that some secret knowledge was revealed to him. The Quran mentions that Abraham prayed for wisdom and later received it. It also mentions that Joseph and Moses both attained wisdom when they reached full age. David received wisdom with kingship. After slaying Goliath, Lot means to be convinced that God sent men as guides to fellow human beings and jinn to guide them to the path of the truth, and that they cannot speak except the truth about God. It is obligatory to know 25 particular messengers, other persons. The Quran mentions 25 messengers by name but also tells that God sent many other prophets and messengers to all the different nations that have existed on earth. Many verses in the Quran discuss this. We did aforetime send messengers before thee. Of them there are some whose story we have related to thee, and some whose story we have not related to thee. For we assuredly sent amongst every people a messenger. Other special persons in the Quran. Caleb. In the Quran, Caleb is mentioned in the 5th surah of the Quran. Dul-Kamine, often identified with Alexander the Great, or Cyrus the Great, is a revered ruler in Islam. Wakim. The family of Imran is the 3rd chapter of the Quran. Imran is Arabic for the biblical figure Amram, the father of Moses and Aaron, who is regarded by Muslims as being the ancestor of Mary and Jesus through his son Aaron. In Muslim belief, however, the Christian Joachim has been attributed the name Imran as well. Khidr. The Quran also mentions the mysterious Khidr, identified at times with Melchizedek, who is the figure that Moses accompanies on one journey. Although most Muslims regard him as an enigmatic saint, some see him as a prophet as well. Luqman. The Quran mentions the sage Luqman in the chapter named after him, but does not clearly identify him as a prophet. The most widespread Islamic belief views Luqman as a saint, but not as a prophet. The Arabic term wali is commonly translated into English as saint. However, the wali should not be confused with the Christian tradition of sainthood. A key difference is that the wali continues what a prophet taught without any change. However, other Muslims regard Luqman as a prophet as well. Mary. A few scholars see Maryam as a Nabi and a prophetess, since God sent her a message via an angel. The Quran, however, does not explicitly identify her as a prophet. Islamic belief regards her as one of the holiest of women, but not as a prophet. 3 persons of the town. These 3 unnamed persons, who were sent to the same town, are referenced in chapter 36 of the Quran. Saul and that they lied to their father. Terror. Many toned in 6 to 74. Prophets in Islamic literature. Numerous other prophets have been mentioned by scholars in the Hadith, exegesis, commentary as well as in the famous collections of Qisas al-Anbiya. These prophets include Cabal and Habil, Daniel, Hosea, Isaiah, Jeremiah. All Jesus' disciples referred as helpers to the work of God. Seth, Shem, Zechariah, son of Berechiah,